Yeah, good afternoon and welcome back to the next segment, wherein we are going to continue the conversation with Dr. Abhay Kumar, Honorable Vice Chancellor of IEC University, who has been gracing the research cell Dayanand Sagar University. And the discussion is currently going on regarding the new education policy, NEP 2020. So I would now like to request our Dean, Dr. Banga sir, to kindly.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Sir, I have a question to you.
Sir.
This is a bit lengthy question, sir, wherein I would bring in 2 points. As you are aware, engineering education unfortunately has lost its sheen. And in the last year, out of 14 lakh seats, only 10 lakhs seats were filled. Even in IITs, there were some vacant seats. Okay, this is a scenario right now. I think, but for computer science and engineering, every other branch had a problem. Incidentally, I am from computer science and engineering branch, so there is not much problem in the CSE, branch because of the obvious reason. Okay, now in NEP, what is coming out very clearly is that our degree programs, basically the first degree program, and also the school education should be multidisciplinary in nature. As you rightly said, coding should start in the 6th standard or around that. Now, that being the case, if once these say people are multi-skilled, suppose somebody does a degree program in science, or maybe commerce and accounting, or economics, they are also good at coding. Will all these result in further drop in engineering admissions? That's what has been bothering me. Will that happen? That's the question, sir.
Dr. Banga, I don't think this would result in any drop in any admission scenario, whether it is engineering or any other stream. Rather, I think that some of the branches have been losing their luster in the minds of the stakeholder students, because what has been happening is that they have been taking paper degrees to get a job, and the sort of jobs which they were being at the receiving end was mediocre for most of the students across the country. Now, when this would happen, they would start losing interest in the viability of the program itself. Because if a good job was not attained after spending a good amount in the fee, I don't think the students and the parents of other students would be very interested in sending them for the same courses. Therefore, the important thing now would be that this upskilling, like you said, coding, like you said, and new technologies. I think artificial intelligence is the buzz of the day. Everything is being put on public cloud. Since you are in computer engineering, you are better aware than me. There are so many things happening. Even during this pandemic, we saw that the thermal thermometers through which we could take temperature. Certain airports had some such thermometers installed, which were run by AI. And what they did was they would decipher whether somebody had a temperature moving around in the airport and was wearing a mask or not. So these things would keep on happening. The concerned students would not only be thinking of going for a job, for instance, they would also think of doing something else in terms of using the extra skills they have achieved. I'll give you an example of my own family. My son had done his BTech in computer engineering. In the second year, he told me that I want to shift. I said, it's not possible. Being an Indian parent, seeing the job market, you have to complete the course. Then he went to Bangalore and he did a course in sports management. Okay. He had spent 4 years here and then did something else. But since he had a background of engineering, 3 of them had a good startup again once the thing changed in his mindset. So what is more important would be holding them and telling them which would be the best career for them to pursue in sync with the interest areas. This is what I feel would be very important in the upcoming years when the new education policy would be implemented. Because the implementation of this policy is what, as I had earlier also stressed, as per the Guru Shishya Parampara, what we send to the Western world is coming back to us. So there wouldn't be a drop in admissions. Rather, I feel that as the government envisages that by 2035, instead of 26.3 or 27% gross enrollment ratio, we would be reaching 50%. Now, there are many engineering colleges. I know about 800 engineering colleges are on the verge of being shut down. Now, if this is happening, it is not because there was any wrong policy which was being implemented. There was something wrong in the implementation part at each level of the education leaders, like institutions, for instance, where we are working. If we are just giving them inputs from books and we are not giving them any practical applications, then I don't think there's any point. The students have got a plethora of information through Google and through any other part. What they basically need is enrichment by way of the faculty himself or herself being enriched to give them that input. So as I have always stressed, the empowerment of faculty in terms of being trained, that is going to become very important now. And in the years to come, say about 5 years hence, I'm not talking about a year or two, I think the enrollment ratio is definitely going to improve. When stand-alone institutions who are having a single discipline, they would also be forced either to become multidisciplinary institutions or maybe merge with some other institution or close down. Mergers and acquisitions are going to be there, sir. So my opinion is admissions will not be affected. Rather, there would be a rise in the number of admissions.
Yes, sir, you are very right. Even I was thinking in similar lines. Probably our other disciplines also will grow because the 3-year degree is normally looked down upon if it have come from industry. And there, people with the BSc Computer Science, BCA people used to join. They are not considered on par with the engineers who have done a 4-year degree program. I think now people will also think of the degree which is equivalent to engineering with the 4-year, which is multi-skilled. They also take a lot of professional courses as part of the degree program. I think it will be win-win. Engineering, as you rightly said, will not lose its sheen so easily. And even science programs and other social science programs will also get their due. That's what I too feel very strongly with the new education policy.
Very true, sir. I fully agree.
Over to now, Dr. Anupama.
Yes, sir. Sir, one question I had, and then we can move into the regulation part of the new education policy. The one thing which I was curious to understand, does the foreign university coming in, or the scope of the foreign universities coming in, does it help the new education policy to get executed, implemented? What about the ones who are already existing? We do have some, foreign universities existing. Does that affect the new education policy, or does it usher in a lot of new foreign universities?
Dr. Anupama, there are 2 or 3 levels on which my thought process goes to. One is that first thing, we should not ever be fearful of any challenges to come. First thing. Foreign universities, of course, would not come en masse. They would wait for the implementation of the education policy because they have been very well aware of the impediments which have been in the past in their entry and exit. So they would wait for a few more months or a year or so. Moreover, even if they come, I think they don't have the requisite clarity in terms of the Indian population as to how to teach to them and how would they be able to conduct their teaching process and pedagogy. That would be different from what exactly is being given in the Western world. Because if it is the same as what is happening there, then I think it would be only for the elite. If we want the masses to come to these foreign universities, this is one level of my thought process. The second level is that we as institutions in India have been lax. Let me accept it in terms of upgrading ourselves. since we have been getting good admissions in the past few years, except maybe 2 or 3 years in which engineering has come and been a bit down, I think other courses have already been in the boom. So we have become lax when we are getting students and we are getting the fee. Even government universities, I think. We should be on our toes. We should try to bridge that gap which is existing between the Indian education system and any other education system globally. We should upgrade ourselves. Of course, when we talk about, say, accreditation or regulation, I think some people often talk about that Indian universities and Indian institutions are not at par since they are not in the world rankings. Now, of course, they can talk whatever they want to do. But these rankings don't always signify quality. They signify that you have been somehow or the other accredited somewhere. Now, accreditation has so many parameters. Which parameters do you consider essential for a country like India? You will have to assess that first. So the foreign universities will definitely come, but they would somehow or the other would be needing Indian talent to make them grow also. So Indian faculty members would have to be a part of those foreign universities if those foreign universities want to remain here for a long-term process, as a long-term, on a long-term basis. So that is how I feel. And of course, we will have to be on our toes, as I always say. We have been pretty lax in the past few years.
Okay. So maybe if not on their own, but then I think collaborative opportunities can be there.
Yes, of course.
They get the benefit of the local knowledge from the Indian counterparts and bring in the global expertise and leverage or synergize the entire process. I think that could be there. So
yeah, ma'am. Please.
Yeah. So we look forward to that. We will see that. The last but not the least is the regulation as envisaged in the NEP. So we have the HECI, wherein there will be different verticals for accreditation, standard setting, regulation. Your views on that, sir?
Well, India has been having not only, I think, a maze of regulatory bodies. Every other trying to intervene into the others, say, power centers. Now, let's not do that. These institutions which would be before now, like the HECI, as you talk about, after the merger of maybe AICT and UGC, I think that was definitely ease regulation, and they would help the institutions to govern themselves better and be more productive. And in terms of giving an output, they would be better equipped. Because if you are constantly being hampered at some areas without any reason, of course, so much funding is being given to the government universities. I think even if a part of it is given to those who deserve in the private sector, they can grow much better, in my opinion also. So we have to be very cautious also in these terms, that accreditation and regulation has to be in such a fashion that it is helpful to the institutions. And moreover, what would be more important would be that, for instance, I'll give you an example without being very direct. A chair is not, for a vice chancellor's chair, for example, is not important. It is the person sitting there who becomes more important to drive the organization. So we should have those people in those seats, in those institutions, which are regulatory bodies or accrediting bodies, who actually can deliver and who can in fact help in translation of these new education policies into the ground level. So that is how it should be done, if there's to be a fruitful effect of the new education policy.
So the final thing is that we are seeing a lot of impetus given on research at the 4-year degree level, creation of universities, research universities. Do we get to see, I mean, from the research cell, my curiosity would be that do we get to have more possibility or opportunities for grants, for collaboration with institutions like IITs and IIMs wherever possible? Does the regulation, the unification of this regulation, HECI, coming in, will it help the research culture in this country?
My opinion is that it would definitely do so. But when we talk about IITs and IIMs, they also cannot remain standalone institutions now. they will also have to become multidisciplinary. So they also have a big task at hand. So thinking that we can collaborate with these organizations and get every other input we want is not also going to be possible, because they would be too engrossed in their own system, how to change it, how to become adherent to the new education policy. So what is going to happen is that we would be seeing an upsurge of research from those who really wanted to do it, but could not do so because of certain impediments in terms of financial assistance, for example. And moreover, the faculty members would have to definitely upgrade themselves, because the supervisor or the guide will have to be much more adept in guiding the research students than what it is happening right now. So we would have to have a training program for the supervisors and guides also. This is my personal view. And these can be done by people who are very good in research in the country. And we should already have a research fund in place by the new education policy. They are going to create a fund of somewhere around, I think, maybe 25,000 crores or something. I'm not very sure of it, but it is going to happen. So this fund should be allocated, of course, not only to the government universities, but to the private organizations as well. And of course, since the government has equated all the universities, saying government, private, deemed, whatever they may be, they are at par. So I think funding should also be at par, should be at par.
So research opportunities look brighter with the new education policy, isn't so, sir?
Yes, they are brighter, but then again, a word of caution that we would not only have to do it in silos. We cannot remain isolated islands of excellence. Many other organizations, like 2 universities or 3 universities, should come up together and collaborate. And not only collaborate together, but include industry, as Dr. Banga just said. Industry should be a part of these research projects. Right now, I'll give you an example. In all our research initiatives and even BOS, we have industry people on board as well as academicians. Now, what will happen is we would get the inputs of what the requirement of the industry is, not only at present, but also what should be the requirement, what skills would be required in the next 2-3 years' time. Because sometimes we academicians may not be aware of what is happening in the corporate world every time. So their inputs become important, and a collaborative research effort by a few universities together, and the university or the institution, academic institution, as well as the industry. This is how I think it is going to work wonders.
Okay, sir.
This is my opinion.
Right, sir. Finally, I'm curious to know that are we going to see you take some great initiatives in this space while implementing this new education policy? Are you taking on extra roles beyond your institution building towards nation building policy?
Dr. Anupama, there are 2 things. One is that, as I said, the task of implementation is not going to be easy. So at present, every institutional leader should primarily focus on his or her institution to bring it in consonance with the new education policy as soon as it is implemented. Now that would take time and energy. So first we have to be limited to our own institution. Then, as I said, let's collaborate in the region around us. Let's come together, build each other, help each other. Like, I'll give you a small example. When this online teaching started during the lockdown, I had started an initiative which everyone looked down upon initially. I contacted 2 or 3 other universities in the region. I said, let's share our resources. If you have some very good videos and some very good faculty members on your board, so let them teach our students as well, and even we will do it. I took the initiative, having a background of business management. I taught a class of 60 of some other university. In the same subjects I taught my students. Now, when a new thing comes up, there are challenges. People don't want to take it as it is. They don't want to come on board. But when you start succeeding, everyone wants to come together now. Now we have about 6 or 7 universities. We have started sharing our resources now. So I think it is always a challenge, but then anything new which comes, we will have to come together. Academic leaders, whether they are deans or professors or lecturers, doesn't matter. We are all teachers at heart. So we will all have to come together with a consensus that we have to make this new education policy successful, the implementation part to the best of our efforts to bring in a new India. This is how we have to go about it. If a role is given to me beyond that, I am always game to it. I will contribute to the society as much as I can. Dr. Anupama, I must tell you, I have 2 biological children, but I feel that children across all the colleges and universities are my own children. This is how I feel.
Great, sir. I think we would also look forward to collaborative opportunities between our university and yours going forward. I think Dr. Banga sir will also be able to discuss more offline, and we look forward to greater partnership. Dr. Banga sir, all yours. Any further questions, sir, you may have?
Yeah, sir, it is great to have you in this, say, small session wherein you gave your perspective of NEP and the timelines for implementation and governance and also the research aspect. Great. And you have taken lead during the pandemic to help other universities as well. As you rightly said, complement and collaborate. I think these two should be our mantra to implement NEP. With this, let me thank you profusely for having accepted to take part in this small, I would say, should I say that, into session, as you know.
Yes, why not?
As you know, Dr. Anupama said, she has taken lead in that. Thank you so much, sir. And
I'll just sum up in 2 lines, sir.
Yes.
I'll just sum up in 2 lines.
Coming towards, say, Bangalore anytime, please do let us know.
Yeah, why not? My son lives in Bangalore, so I have just come 3 or 4 months back.
Okay, he works for which company, sir?
No, he has his own startup. He is the CEO of that startup.
Oh,
3 of them.
Great.
I told you, na, he had an interest in sports. So then he had his own startup with 3 of them. Now, sir, my last few lines of conclusion on whatever has happened today is, I personally feel that this new education policy is a very progressive one, and we are definitely going to leverage on the demographic dividend of young India, the average age being 27. And I am very sure that with judicious implementation and what you just said, complementing and collaborating together, we would take India on a growth trajectory, which was not even thought of before.
Yeah, right, we should surpass China, because we have
why not, sir?
We have got all wherewithal. Somehow we are not making it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
If we have got the willpower, I am sure we will be number 1 in the in the world. That's what I would say consider, because I have seen in most of the industries, especially IT industries, be it services company or product companies, lot of say senior people in the design, product design or other areas are Indians. But somehow we could not have one product company worthy name, in India. Most unfortunate thing. Though I was also in industry and I could not make things happen. But thinking over the past, I think we lost a lot of opportunity to make India a product company. Right.
Sure.
We don't have a company worth the name like Microsoft or HP or IBM. Hope with the new kids coming up with a lot of startups, I think we are going to become a technology hub of the world. With this, right, thank you, sir, again. Namaste.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Banga, Dr. Anupama, and the research cell of Dayanand Sagar University. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm also very happy that both of you could share the time. And I'm sure our stakeholders who will be watching this video hereafter, whenever they will be watching the video, be it students, parents, teachers, faculty members, educators, leaders, I think all will gain some perspective. Thank you so much for your time, Dr.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Banga, sir. Thank you. Signing off from the research cell of Dayanand Sagar University. Wish you a very good evening. Thank you.